This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company. For more information and links to all our great podcasts, visit hartmanmedia.com.
Welcome to the Longevity Show, informing listeners on the important aspects of health, wealth, and happiness to ensure you live life to its fullest. With fascinating interviews with top authors and gurus in the field, along with the latest news in the science and technology of longevity, we're going to reveal expert advice and amazing secrets of living a longer, happier life. And now, here's your host, Jason Hartman.
It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Stephen Schimpff. He is the former CEO of the University of Maryland Medical Center, author of the best-selling book, Fixing the Primary Care Crisis, Reclaiming the Patient-Doctor Relationship and Returning Healthcare Decisions to You and Your Doctor, and the new book, Longevity Decoded, The 7 Keys to Healthy Aging. Steve, welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm really pleased to be here.
Good to have you on the show. You're coming to us from Baltimore today, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. So let's first talk about your newest book. Let's talk about Longevity Decoded, the fountain of youth, the eternal quest of mankind, right? Take us through some of these 7 keys to healthy aging.
We all know we're getting older. I'm 76, by the way, so I know better than you do that I'm getting older. And what I find quite fascinating, and the science is getting better and better at this, is that every year in every organ of our body, we lose about 1% of function. So just a couple of examples, our bone mineral density, our strength of our bones, the strength and volume of our muscles, our ability to balance, our cognitive abilities, our heart, our lung, everything. It's losing about 1% a year, and it starts in early adulthood, certainly by age 40, probably 10, 20 years before that. But we have so much redundancy in each organ that we don't notice it. What's 1%? But you get to a point in life where, it adds up. And so to use the example I just gave you of bone, muscle, and balance, the older person may not have the same balance if they step off a little bit of a ledge and they can't catch themselves because their muscles aren't as strong. They fall down and the bone breaks. It wouldn't have happened if they were 55 years old, but when they're 85 years old, that happens. Same thing for cognitive function. You get to a point where you realize, where did I put those keys? I can't do mathematics as quickly as I used to be able to do, and so on.
So we're kind of all familiar with that, I think.
You are, of course.
Yeah.
But the second thing is, in addition to that 1%, as we get older, and I know this has been on some of your other shows, as we get older, various chronic diseases become more and more prevalent. So we call them age-prevalent diseases. So here's where I really want to go. These 7 keys, which are all lifestyle-related, can slow that 1% and can prevent most, not all, of those chronic diseases, including some of the ones we're most scared of, like Alzheimer's disease. So that's sort of the essence of the story here.
Okay, so what do we do about this?
What we do is not go look for that fountain of youth you mentioned before. Don't go to your doctor looking for a pill or someplace else that's going to give you an injection of a gene therapy change. Some of those things may come along, by the way. But right now, those 7 keys are our lifestyles, and they are what we eat. I know you've talked about this a lot on your shows. What we eat, diet, how we move, exercise, how we deal with our stresses in life. Chronic stress is a big problem for us, and so we need to manage our stress. We need to get enough sleep, so enhanced sleep. Of course, no tobacco. So those 5 are important for every single organ in our body, including our brain. But our brain needs 2 more things. One is intellectual challenges. It's the old thing about use it or lose it. So you need to challenge your brain all the time. And the other thing that we need as humans is social engagement. So those are the 7. We could add some others to it, but those are the 7 major ones. We can do it. It doesn't cost anything, but it does mean that we're going to change how we live our lives. And that can be hard because there's so much marketing going on that impacts, what we hear every day. Buy this, buy that, do this, do that. But often it's to the company's advantage and not to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So these are the 7 keys, right?
Yes.
That's what you just outlined. Okay, good.
That's right.
So take us through some of the not widely known things, if you would. Everyone kind of already, maybe they don't practice it, but they believe, I think, in all the stuff you said, right? It's not a question of knowing or believing. It's a question of doing and maybe some tips or hacks or, unknown knowledge, lesser known knowledge.
There's a zillion diet books out there, and it's a multi-billion-dollar business. But the basics are still the same basics. Eat a largely plant-based diet. I like what Michael Pollan wrote in a book of his a number of years ago. Eat food, meaning real food,
right,
and mostly plant-based, and not too much. It's the word eat food, meaning skip the processed foods, skip the prepared foods.
Sure.
I like to go to McDonald's the same as everybody. I like a Coke once in a while, same as everybody. But, that's not where we need to go.
Yeah.
So we need to eat a lot of vegetables.
Eat real food, have a green plate.
Food.
Yeah,
That's
get it.
Got it. Cover your plate with the good stuff.
Yep.
Try and cut back on sugar. The average American, I find this number amazing.
Right.
The average American eats 154 pounds of added sugar per year.
You said pounds. That is unbelievable.
It is.
People
so now
are you wait, whoa, Steve. People are consuming, the average American is consuming basically a half pound, 8 ounces of sugar per day. You've got to be kidding me. I know it's a crisis, but it can't be that bad.
Well, you aren't consuming it, and I'm not consuming it. But if that's the average amount, that means somebody else is consuming even more.
I'm really wondering. I'm really skeptical of that. I'm wondering how it would be possible for someone to consume 8 ounces of sugar per day. That calculation must have come from the manufacture of foods, not the consumption of foods. Listen, I know it's bad. I'm not disagreeing that there is a crisis with sugar, the poison known as sugar, but nobody's eating a half pound of it a day. I mean, that's 8 ounces. That's let me see, there's 28 grams in an ounce. So, maybe you're right, actually, now that I think of it. Okay, let me do a little math here. So I was at the poison distribution outlet known as Starbucks a few weeks ago. And I hate to say I am a regular customer, but I try not to eat the most poisonous things at that disgusting place. People pick on McDonald's and, they have every right to, but Starbucks, nobody picks on Starbucks. And Starbucks, if you look at the expansion of Starbucks and the expansion of the waistline of the country, those are like directly proportional, I say. This is my own anecdotal survey. I picked up a yogurt at Starbucks and I was going to buy it. It had 26 grams of added sugar,
That's right.
Not 26 grams of natural sugar, of added sugar. And that's almost an ounce. Okay, right there. So if you have 8 of those a day, there's your half pound.
Yeah, and we don't think that there's sugar in yogurt. We think of yogurt as a healthy food.
Yogurt is pathetic.
So we don't stop and think. Let me look at the label like you did and see what's there. That's one of a message I would like to give people is turn it around, look at the label.
Right, but the problem is everybody listening to this show is looking at labels. Okay, so we got to go beyond that. But that is astounding. That you could, I mean, this is total poison. What is the sort of recommended amount of sugar? And maybe you can make some distinctions between added sugar and natural sugar too.
Okay, so let's just do added sugar. Yeah. Added sugar, the recommendation for women, I believe, is 26 grams a day, and for men, something like 37 grams a day.
Okay, so basically 1/8 of what people actually are consuming. Okay, incredible. Wow.
And that one yogurt you picked up is all the added sugar, according to the American Heart Association, that a woman should be eating.
In a whole day. In a whole day. And guess what?
In a whole day.
Let me tell you something else. That was a small little cup. It was 4 ounces. Basically, 1/4 of that cup was sugar.
Can I tell you a story about, you just told me your yogurt story. Let me tell you an iced tea story. We have a little cabin out in the mountains of West Virginia. It's about 4.5 hours from where we live. So on the drive out, 4.5 hours, at my age, I got to empty my bladder along the way. So we stopped at McDonald's. I like McDonald's, actually. The bathrooms were clean. That was our key reason for stopping. But my wife got a coffee, and it was 50 cents because we're seniors. And that's a great deal. I wanted an iced tea. So here's the story. Go up to the counter and said, I'd like an iced tea. She said, you want small or large? I said, small. She said, get the large. It only costs 50 cents more. I said, no, small is fine. I didn't say to her, if I take the large, I have to stop again along the way. But anyway, so she said, okay, do you want sweetened or unsweetened? I said, unsweetened, please. She said, no, get the sweetened. I said, why is that? She said, well, the sweetened is $1 and the unsweetened is $2. So I said, no, I really want the unsweetened. She looked at me like I was the stupidest person she'd ever met. And so, okay, she handed me a cup, took my money, and I went over to where the tea is, the iced tea is, and they had 2 containers. One was sweet and one was unsweetened. I could have taken either one. Anyway, I took my unsweetened iced tea, and off we went. Later, I looked at the receipt she gave me. She actually just charged me for the sweetened iced tea. Why do they do that? Because sugar is addictive. It's really, really addictive. And by the way, I did taste the unsweetened just to see what it was like. It's sickly sweet to me. That's me. Somebody else?
I think it tastes disgusting. I mean, and listen, I like sugar. I love chocolate, but when it's too sweet, It's absolutely disgusting. What else do you want to share with people? Well,
let's go on to exercise. Again, I think everybody knows this, but the key is just get up and get going.
Right.
I'm sitting in front of my computer right now. When we get off of this show, I'm going to stand up and move around. But most of us don't do that. So again, it's just get up and move. Just walk for half an hour a day. That'll make all the difference in the world. Add in some resistance exercises 2 or 3 times a week. And if you're getting older, add some balance exercises in as well. So that's exercise.
Talk about one of the lesser known parts of this, balance. You mentioned that. Just quickly, just very quickly, what happens to balance? Does our inner ear not work as well when we get older so that our equilibrium is off? Or what's going on with the balance thing and how do we fix it?
Yeah, so there's 3 parts to it. And remember this 1% decline thing again. So balance requires our eyes, our inner ears, the semicircular canals, which tell us where our head is relative to gravity, and somatosensory or proprioception, that's the sense inside our ankles, say, that tell us whether we're standing straight or not.
Okay.
So you have all 3 of those. As time goes on, they all deteriorate somewhat, but that inner ear function does deteriorate. But if you do balance exercises, you can bring it back. It's quite fascinating. And I learned it from myself, by the way, about a year ago. My wife was having some balance problems. So I said, well, I ought to do some balance exercises too. And it was amazing how it changed really quickly. So if you want to test yourself, here's a simple test. Start walking 1 foot directly in front of the other, heel to toe, so they're actually touching. Kind of like, what they might do if they stopped you on the highway and said, hey fella, come on out and walk the right
we
line
get it.
here.
Yeah.
So do that. It turns out the average person who's 70 years old can't do that very well.
Yeah.
But once you start doing the exercises, it turns it right around.
Okay, so just do the drunk driver test, basically. That's the exercise. Okay.
That's the test. The exercise is a little different, but that's a good start.
What's the exercise?
Stand about 2 feet from a wall. Take your hands and touch the wall just so you have that sense. You have your eyes open. Take your feet and put them foot apart or something like that. And now close your eyes. And when you feel well balanced, take your hand away from the wall. And do that for 30 seconds. Now repeat it, but this time put your feet close together. It'll be a little harder. 3rd time, do it with 1 foot in front of the other. And that's going to be quite a bit harder. Anyway, just practice those. 30 seconds each one. And after a while, they'll get better.
Okay, good. What about one of the other 7 keys?
Well, stress. Chronic stress is really, really important. I think it's way under-recognized, way underrated.
Yeah.
We all have stresses in life. I'm in the retirement community. I still have stresses in life. I'm just a little tiny bit stressed now. That's acute stress. Will I make a boo-boo as we're talking?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But that's acute stress. Chronic stress is that low-grade stuff that comes because your boss is a pain in the butt, or because you're having a relationship problem, or your kids are a problem, whatever it is, and it's persistent. Well, that low-grade stress lets out chemicals which circulate, and they then cause low-grade chronic inflammation.
Okay, so cortisol probably you're going to say, right?
Yes,
okay.
And there's some other chemicals too, but that's the main one.
Okay.
The thing is, the underlying thing of not all, but almost all diseases, and all those age-prevalent diseases, is chronic inflammation.
Right.
And chronic stress exacerbates chronic inflammation.
Sure.
And each of us has their own, let's call it our weak point. It might be our joints, might be our brain, might be our heart, our arteries. And that chronic inflammation causes disease. Okay. So chronic stress is really important.
How do we know if we have inflammation?
Very good question. And I would say until fairly recently, we didn't. because you can't feel it.
Right.
So you have to get tested for it. Well, we may know the chronic.
Right.
You have to get tested for it. There's things like C-reactive protein,
Okay.
and there's a few other blood tests that can be done. But that's maybe the C-reactive protein. There's a new high. It's called high sensitivity or highly sensitive C-reactive protein, which is a pretty good test, and it's inexpensive.
So get a blood test and make sure you test for C-reactive protein.
Right.
Okay. And then if that marker is high, we know we have too much inflammation?
Yes. So where's it caused by? Is it caused by your stress? That's one thing. Is it caused by your bad diet? Too much sugar, not enough fiber? That's another thing. Is it caused in part because you're not exercising? Because lack of exercise jacks that up. Of course, tobacco jacks it up.
Okay, so we found out we have the inflammation problem, and it's serious. What do we do about it? You were about to say that.
Well, just what we're talking about.
Oh, so the exercise.
Yeah, look at your diet, look at your exercise, look at your stress. Get some sleep. Enhance sleep. Sleep is really important, and I think most people don't understand. In America, it's sort of like, well, I don't need that much sleep. I can get by on 4 hours or 5 hours. That's just bull. We really need to sleep, and just a couple of reasons why is one we're just talking about, which is chronic inflammation. When we're asleep, in a deep sleep, our brain cells actually shrink, and the space in that vault of our head fills with fluid. And the fluid actually is moving. Think of it like a slow-moving river. And it's washing our brain cells of toxins. So over the course of the night, those toxins are being washed out. We wake up in the morning, we get that refreshed feeling. That's probably largely because those toxins have been carried away. Another big part of sleep is our memory. Nighttime is when our brain kind of files our memories.
Right.
So, for example, if you're working at the computer,
It's cleanup time.
yeah, well, more than that, it's filing time.
Probably also rebooting time. Well, filing is
Yes.
cleanup the way I look at it,
Yeah.
but yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, say you just wrote a letter and you printed it or send it or something like that, but you want to save it. So to save it, you have to hit the Save As button and put it somewhere in a file.
Right.
And that's what our brain is doing overnight.
Okay, so let me ask you a question about sleep. And I have a feeling this same issue that I face, many other people face it. So I'm asking for everybody, but also selfishly on my own behalf. My sleep appears to be very deep. I feel like I get good quality sleep most of the time, at least 6 nights a week. But it's not very long. I always wake up in 4 to 6 hours, it seems like. And then, of course, the brain turns on and, you start thinking about everything and it's hard to get back to sleep. Now, sometimes I achieve getting back to sleep, but it's not without maybe an hour of what I consider to be mostly wasted time trying to go back to sleep. I was beating myself up about this for a long time and thinking, this is bad, how do I fix it? But then I read an article that talked about how that's natural. That's the way it's supposed to be. And it came back from, the old evolutionary days when we really needed to think about protecting ourselves and sleeping in short spurts, getting up to check the environment, make sure everything's okay, there's no predators, and then going back to sleep. I don't know what is true or false, but the one other comment I will say is that when I sleep a long time, although I'm told that that's good, and a long time for me would be 8 hours, or maybe 9 if I'm really sleeping a long time. Honestly, I don't feel that great. I feel like I got hit by a bus. It seems to me that with all the benefits sleep offers, it has some downsides. The fact that you're not moving around, your lymph is not circulating, your muscles get kind of achy, at least mine do. I'm not so sure about these things, and I don't want people to just take them as the gospel without considering what I've mentioned. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. First of all, each one of us is different. Some people need more sleep. Some people can get by on less sleep. No question about that. And you just mentioned when you started that you go into a very deep sleep. Just that during that deep sleep when all these positive things are happening, our sleep patterns are that it's a cyclical thing. In general, it's around 90 minutes. You go into a deep sleep and then you kind of come
I think
out of
I
it.
get about 4 REMs. If I'm lucky,
four cycles.
maybe 3 cycles, and then I wake up.
And
maybe that's all
good.
I need, but I don't know. I can go back to sleep afterwards sometimes, but I'll lose an hour or an hour and a half in between.
Yeah, I have the same problem, so I understand.
Okay.
One thing that sometimes works, frequently works, is to just sort of quietly do some deep breathing and do it slowly. So in and out over about a 5 or 6 second period. And normally we breathe at about 14 per minute. And you want to get it down to just 5 per minute, 5 to 6 per minute. And that just changes and it sort of settles you down. We're all human. We all have all these different things. Am I going to be on time for this? Or I got prepared for that or whatever. That's just being human.
All right. Okay.
We might talk about naps, though, just for a second.
Sure. Yeah. What do naps, the jury goes both ways on this one. So what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think the data is pretty good that a nap is fine. It shouldn't be more than about 20 minutes, though. If you go much more than 20 minutes, you're getting into a deeper and deeper sleep. And then when you wake up,
you're disrupting it.
It's very disruptive.
Right.
But about 20 minutes kind of takes the edge off. You feel better and makes the rest of the day better. They've shown that airline pilots, for example, take a short nap. It's, over a long trip, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Okay, good. Steve, give out your website. Tell people where they can find you.
You can find me at www.medicalmegatrends, all one word, medicalmegatrends.com.
Medicalmegatrends.com. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.